Happy Friday, everyone. How you all
Hello.
doing?
Friday.
Andrea,
Friday.
welcome back. How are you?
Andrea, welcome to the show.
Yes,
Thank you.
welcome back.
Great
So
to be here.
Let's start off with the big news of the week. Big news. T-Rex may have
Zombie
had
mask?
lips.
Oh.
Lips?
What?
Yes.
That
What
is
happened?
news.
Did you guys read that?
What? Say it
No.
again.
No.
Say it again.
T-Rex. You know how like in Jurassic Park they showed T-Rex with the teeth like a crocodile? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So some paleontologists published a study where they compared the tooth wear of crocodiles, lizards, and T-Rex. And they, according to their analysis, T-Rex probably had like lips covering their teeth, like a lizard does, like a Komodo dragon, and did not show their teeth like a crocodile or an alligator.
Oh, they made an
Although
image too. Look.
not everyone's buying it. You know, because,
Ah,
The mid journey is getting better
That's
and better.
exactly-
I'm so impressed. Yeah.
I don't know, man. It putting lips on that guy significantly reduces the fear factor for me.
Yeah. Seeing
think
those
so?
teeth is.
yeah, what
Are
do
they
they
gonna-
mean though? What do they mean it had lips? I want to see a real mock-up of
like,
what.
or like, you know, like a Komodo dragon, the scaly skin completely covers the teeth when the mouth is closed.
That's fine. That's not a big deal,
But
Jay.
that,
I mean,
that
it's
theoretically
open
means
their
that
mouth.
it could almost smile.
Maybe
would-
it was a gentle giant, and we've just had it cast
Guess
all
we'll-
wrong.
You're right. We
No?
might have this guy all wrong.
The personality is totally different.
It's a lover.
Andrea, maybe they had chapped lips and they couldn't reach up to
Right.
Oh.
do anything about it, you know?
Well, now I'm thinking. I mean, this color I think would be good for a T-Rex. You know, really make
so?
make their eyes pop.
But I don't get it because I never necessarily imagined that you could see their teeth when their mouth was closed anyway, right? I mean,
Yeah,
what's the
it's just
deal?
the T-Rex has definitely been portrayed both ways. I think
Mm.
the older portrayal, because people, you know, old school ways of depicting dinosaurs are basically like big
Oh, that's
lizards, you know.
Mm.
But then
So
the
were they-
Jurassic Park era brought the teeth out, but now they're saying
Right.
no, maybe not.
Someone
they
in the
gonna
chat
remake
just made me crack up. I got to
Jurassic
read
Park?
this. The Beaverton headline: Paleontologists theorized T-Rex had kissable lips and an ass that wouldn't quit. Oh, God, that is great.
But some paleontologists are pushing back, saying the evidence is not convincing, and you know it's all getting into the anatomical detail. So this is not the final word on it, but it is a question mark. But I was
But
writing
Steve,
about it today.
But this is what we love about science.
Yeah.
the experts, people who literally dedicate their lives to this, let them go talk. And when
They're
they
gonna hit-
decide on what
yeah.
the answer is,
Gonna have a
tell
cage
us
match.
the plebs what it is, and then we will all of a sudden completely agree. They have lips, they had chapped lips, they have big asses, whatever they say, I agree with.
Feathers that they're brushing are beautiful.
Yeah, 70s afros, it's all good, man.
So the more interesting question is, what are all the ways that we have of inferring soft tissue on extinct animals?
So Steve, you want to know more about soft tissue?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Okay.
Easy.
I have no idea. Is it
Can you really set that up like
Good
you were going to
job.
say something
Yeah.
useful?
I know, I edited it out. I can't, I'm in my 50s now. I can't say this stuff. Oh hell, I'll say it. No, whatever. So
I feel like, yeah.
so Steve, is there something about the skeleton that would indicate that there is soft
The
tissue
teeth.
cover?
The teeth. For the
So
T-Rex
teeth themselves could
Yeah.
tell you that if there's soft tissue there.
So, well, just as a broader question, though, if we're looking at just extinct animals, all we have are their bones to figure out what they looked like. What are the other kinds of evidence that we could bring
Well,
to
we've seen
bear?
impressions. We've seen impressions of skin.
Yeah, so
and
there could be impressions,
How do you pronounce that?
what we call trace fossils. Yeah.
Mhm. I don't know what else. I seem like you're holding something back from us.
Well, I'm just, it's a good thought experiment.
How about caveman drawings? of the-
Caveman drawings. That's another one.
That's
Wait,
obvious.
caveman and
T-Rexes.
dinosaurs didn't coexist.
Well, not the dinosaurs, but they did draw mammals that they hunted, and we learned information about them by the way they drew. Oh, this guy had a hump. Nobody knew they had a hump because he doesn't fossilize.
What hump?
What hump?
Wait a second. What does this have to do with T-Rex?
I'm Frank.
Nothing. I broadened the question, as I've said multiple times now.
Okay,
to-
all right. You don't have. To
I
be
definitely
vague.
thought Bob was getting creationist on us when he said that cavemen were drawing the dino. I was like, it's been a while since I've been on the lawn.
One possibility, admittedly, it's a long shot. It could be ancient alien satellites that have documented the development of the Earth over 5
It's
billion
definitely
years
a long shot.
with a really big hard drive. Long shot, but that would be cool. Zoom
Steve,
in.
do you
Rough
think that we
bites.
will ever take ancient DNA and make some type of dinosaur from it?
Dinosaur,
Yes.
probably not. Right now,
Well, no.
right now, the upper limit on DNA age is about 2
Million?
million.
2 million now?
Yeah.
So what was alive
What
2
does that
million
give
years
us?
ago?
Yeah.
Yeah. Well,
Nothing.
lots of stuff, but no dinosaurs.
Okay.
So DNA would be another way, right? If we get enough DNA that we could, say, oh, it had this gene that this other thing has, and that means it had this, or whatever. Frozen samples, right? Pulling a mammoth out of the
Sure.
permafrost.
Mm.
What do you guys know? What the oldest ice on Earth is? Oldest
Yes.
ice.
Yeah, it's like millions of years old in the Arctic.
Specific number.
A
Ice
specific
core.
number.
Or,
What would you guess?
275 million years.
no,
Not even
that's-
close.
That's
Okay,
Too far. I think it's too far. 20 million?
20 million. That's exactly right.
Oh, I was gonna go.
Antarctic glacier
Mhm.
ice is 20 million years old.
Wow.
So it's still doesn't get us to the dinosaurs,
That's
but
true.
How far down do you have to go to get to that ice?
God, 12
pretty
feet.
far. So far, the oldest ice core we've drilled is 2.7 million years. So we haven't gotten down to the 20 million
What was
year
it?
old
Four-
ice.
4.7?
Huh?
How deep? How many?
2.7. 2.7.
2.7?
Can we make cocktails with that ice? Because you could
Could if
charge
you
a
want to.
lot.
Absolutely.
Briny
that.
shrimp.
Yeah.
But so let's think about that for a second, Andrea. So you're
Okay.
saying you're having a drink with 2 million year old ice, but the water that all of ice on the planet is made out of is probably hundreds of millions of years old or
Yeah.
whatever, right?
So it's actually newer ice than
Yeah.
water. Right.
Yes. So it's basically like a relatively recent event if you think about
Right.
it compared to
Right,
water.
right. Are you sick of this old water? Have 2 million year old ice.
Yeah.
Liven things up.
Apparently,
Steve,
it's
I
3
thought you were gonna
kilometers
say-
down. By the way,
How many? 3?
3. Yeah,
Three,
just
that's
3
far.
kilometers down.
Steve, I thought you were going to say we were able to figure out what the T-Rex arms were for when you said that there was
Mhm.
T-Rex news, because I'm still stumped on that one from our conversation a million years ago. Maybe
Yeah,
to
yeah.
put apply chapstick. could
Right,
be.
right.
Steve, let me try to remember, because we did talk about this on the show. The most recent information wasn't it for sexual positioning?
That's one of the thoughts, that
One
it
of
was
the
Oh.
okay.
stabilizing during sex. Yeah. But a lot of the theropods, like the dinosaurs like T-Rexes, had more diesel arms. They weren't vestigial. They were
Mhm.
beefy. They could do stuff with it. They're just relatively small compared to the rest of the T-Rex, but
They
they're
were,
still
they were still strong. I think I remember reading somewhere that a T-Rex could have curled 200 pounds in each,
Oh,
Mhm,
which is
okay.
strong,
That's
a lot.
strong, yeah.
quite strong.
mhm.
So talking about things that lived a long time ago. So I want to just briefly touch on this, because I'm going to be talking about the woolly mammoth meatball on the show tomorrow. Andrea, did you read about this?
I saw the headline. I did not click on it. Is that an informed contribution to this conversation?
Well, I like you a
I
little
figured it
bit
was
less
fake.
than I did a little
Yeah.
while ago. No,
Yeah.
what's
Fair.
happening is, real quick, they took a protein sample from a frozen woolly mammoth. They sequenced the DNA, and then they were able to make cultured meat in the lab that was a woolly
Okay.
mammoth's protein. And they made a meatball about this big out of it.
I figured it was just a regular meatball that was large. I was like, okay, and they just called it a woolly mammoth meatball. But no, it's actually some lab meat.
Yeah.
Inferred mammoth meat with some
Wow.
elephant thrown in, but
Yeah, they had to fill in some gaps in the DNA.
mammoth protein.
Elephant? I didn't know we ate elephants. I mean, I guess we eat everything.
Well, yeah, I don't think anybody eats elephants today, but I'm sure, because I had a little figurine of cavemen fighting woolly mammoths. So that tells me, I infer everything I know through little figurines.
That's right.
They probably did hunt and use their hides and eat them, because it's there's a ton of meat on those animals.
A big get, man.
But anyway, so I to celebrate this, I made meatballs today, and I modified my recipe. This is a big deal. I'm always tinkering with percentages and stuff like that, but I did something. I wholly tried something brand new that I read from America's Test Kitchen. You guys know America's Test Kitchen?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So what they do is they pre-soak. They use saltine crackers, if you could imagine. They pre-soak. That's their bread, right? For breadcrumbs.
Mm-hmm.
I use regular store-bought breadcrumbs, but you pre-soak them in milk. And then you put them in, which when I first read that, I'm like, milk and meatballs? I'd never tried it and didn't know anything about it. So I tried it today, and I think I made the best batch of meatballs I ever made in my life.
Whoa.
Today. Yes.
Wow.
Do
you think it's the milk soaked breadcrumbs?
Yeah. So what it does, it profoundly changes the texture. So the texture, a regular meatball, if you don't put enough breadcrumbs in there, it could get hard, right? So breadcrumbs actually soften the meat to make it easier to bite into, or whatever. But to make it even an order of magnitude softer, if you hydrate that. So I guess milk works well with the recipe, because America's Test Kitchen, literally spends years developing recipes and stuff like that's where they let's try saltines. Who would even think to do that? But somebody did. But anyway, it worked remarkably well. It was also a flavor enhancer, because the texture actually affects flavor. It affects the amount of flavonoids that hit your tongue. You know what I mean? If you think about it. So I took a bite and I was like, holy shit, I outdid the pre-existing best meatball recipe on the planet.
Mm-hmm.
I'll be the judge of that. You better save one for me.
I did. I made a huge batch, so everybody's going to get them.
Nice.
I did that because Brian Wecht is actually in person going to come to my house tomorrow, and I'm going to hang out with our families are going to hang out together. And
you made him meatballs? That's high honor for a guest.
Well, I asked him what he wanted. I said, I'm going to make dinner. What do you want? And he was like, I've never had a novella meatball. I guess I got to do this. I'm like, we're doing it,
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, Jay, I will say that when you were on my podcast, I listed that was not a plug. This is related to what we're talking about. I listed all the things that you do.
Mm-hmm.
And I got a number of comments, I believe, from folks who are probably watching right now saying, you left off meatball connoisseur. and like meatball maker, and so I left your meatball credit off of my podcast when I listed your bio. So
next time I go
you.
on, you can modify my bio and update it. We'll talk more about meatballs
and other things.
Yeah, I mean, I talk a lot about meatballs because they're one of my favorite things to eat, but I make a lot of other stuff. I'm like, I'm expanding my repertoire, monthly, literally. Like I'm constantly working on new recipes and stuff like that. But I'm heavily into my bread making still. I'm like obsessed with it.
That's what I want to try is your bread.
Yes. Well, when
shit, man.
Yeah, I'll talk to you off screen about certain things that might be happening in the future, but there will be opportunities, I promise you.
Also, where are my manners? I'm like, I want your bread, like as opposed to, hey Jay, if you ever have any when I'm around, it'd be great to try it.
No, the I want your bread stance works better with me.
Okay.
Yeah.
They respond well to threats.
Yeah. If you're not raising your voice and pointing at me, I don't hear you,
Yeah, great.
So there is an elephant, not a woolly mammoth, but there's an elephant in the room that we have to talk about.
What could it be?
Because something profound happened yesterday in the United States that obviously people, I'm sure, know that if you showed up to today's live stream, you know that we're going to talk about Donald Trump being indicted.
Oh.
So
thought it was Bob's zombie mask.
We'll get to that. Go ahead, Bob. Let's do it. Oh, is that your Bob? Is that your new one?
That's good.
No, this is just a goofy $30 mask. This is nothing. There was just kind of okay, and I'm like, yeah, I want another zombie mask. That's it.
Let me see it. Put it on again.
Nothing major. It's got some hair, which I like, and it has its own ears.
Oh, that's a nice touch.
That is uncommon. You're right.
But it's okay. I mean, this is a background zombie.
Yeah,
this is not a hero zombie.
He's a supporting actor. He's not a hero. Yeah. So anyway, I first I'll say, if you don't want to hear us talk politics, now would be a good time to go do something else, because we're gonna talk about this because it's a big deal.
Have a woolly mammoth meatball.
Yeah, go read the news. But the first thing is that Andrea, you were looking up words that
I'm looking up words.
Yeah.
Yes.
So what are you looking up?
I can't guess how long ago dinosaurs or ice was around, but I can look up words. So I last night, with a bit of shame, had to look up what exactly does it mean to indict someone, because it's a word that had been tossed around a whole bunch, and I knew it was something that was on the horizon possibly for Trump. It's something we've been talking about since 2016 about Trump and others, and I was like, I think I finally need to know what this is. So do you all know what indictment is? Are you smarter than I am?
It means a grand jury looked over evidence and decided that there was enough evidence to bring you to trial on some specific charge.
Yeah.
Right. And what I was curious about was, I was like, is that the same thing as just being charged for a crime? And it's not quite the same. Do we? And
right. I think it's because of the inclusion of the grand jury. Right. It's the magnitude.
Close enough.
Right. It's the magnitude. So
you're indicted, right? If you're charged, you're indicted. Don't they go hand in hand?
Well, no, because you could be charged with something without an indictment happening, because an indictment is part of the process of a grand jury.
Right.
So doesn't it depend on the charge? Like there are some things a prosecutor could just charge you with, and other things they need to get by a grand jury.
So federal crimes, I think it's federal crimes and crimes that are, deemed by the state to be big enough that they're above and beyond just like a prosecutor saying, hey, we're charging you with this crime. So, oh gosh, now I got to get it right. All right. And someone in the chat says indicated, which is of course the other legal term for indicted is indicated without a doubt. So indeed, a big enough crime. It's basically, you got charged for a crime is way better than you got indicted for a crime, because that means your crime is way more serious.
Yeah.
And a prosecutor doesn't indict you. As Steve said, a grand jury indicts you. And so what that means is that someone somewhere in, say, the federal system said, okay, there's a crime that's big enough that we think we could bring this person to trial, and there's sufficient evidence to warrant a trial. And they take all of that and they kind of do a mini pre-trial before the trial in front of a grand jury. And the grand jury, by indicting Trump, is saying, we think there's enough evidence to go to trial. So it's I think it seems like it's a much stronger, it's like the crime itself is higher profile, it's worse, it's a larger scale. but it's also you've kind of gone through a pre-trial already where a group of just citizens, right? This isn't, people are saying it's a political move. It's citizens. I was almost selected for a grand jury, and I really wish I'd been selected for this one. And I think just saying that means I'll never be selected for anything political ever again. But basically, humans who just looked at the evidence said there's enough to bring this person to trial. So it's much more. I think I read it. It's more of a slam dunk, or it means you have to have a much stronger case up top before you even go to trial.
Well, yeah, I mean, what you said is absolutely dead on correct. Like the grand jury, they get presented the evidence. Like those people actually hear the evidence.
Yeah.
And you're right. It is like a pre-trial, and they all have to agree.
Yeah.
Which is a big deal. You get a jury to all agree. That's
lots of great memes about Trump winning the popular vote and winning in New York and all kinds of stuff coming out based on that. Yeah.
Yeah.
So then what's a petite jury? Is that the jury that's there during trial then? That's the petite jury?
I think so. It's just a regular jury is a petite jury.
Right.
The other word I learned that I really like, and I think it only applies to juries, but please tell me if I'm wrong, is impaneled. You impanel a jury.
Yeah.
So you set it up. I was like, oh, I'm going to impanel some things. That's my new word. Really
one word that when I first heard it, I loved it. You ever hear of the word voir dire?
Yeah.
Voir dire. Yeah.
Voir dire. Is it French?
So what that means is the two lawyers on a case, when they're filling a jury, they voir dire the potential jurors, meaning that they interview you kind of and try to get a sense of where you're at.
You've never been voir dired, Andrea?
No, I was summoned once for this grand jury, and we basically just did the thing where we all said, I'm willing to serve, and then they randomly chose names and I wasn't chosen.
I've been voir dired 4 times.
Yeah.
Every time I got off almost instantly just by saying I'm a skeptic.
Really?
Sorry, Steve. I've got the best voir dire story. I've got the best voir dire story. All right. I'm being voir dired, and I tell them my stuff, and they're like, all right, Bob, tell us, what do you do, outside of work? And I'm like, well, and this is the late 90s. So I said, well, I happen to be part of the Connecticut Skeptic Society, and I just happened to be finishing an article I was writing about the fallibility of human memory. And they're like, oh, yeah, okay. I was in the car in 10 minutes going home, never been called back since. Never been called back. They wanted nothing to do with
Bob,
me.
you've been blacklisted, dude.
That's
awesome.
Amazing. That's what you got to do. I have an opposite story, which is one of my professors in grad school specialized in the game theory behind jury decision making and what systems of group decision making lead to closer to correct outcomes. So he literally studied juries and how actually forcing unanimity doesn't actually necessarily increase the probability that you're going to get to the correct decision and all these things. So he studied juries for a living, and he went in and told them all of that. He was so excited to be selected. And he thought for sure that if he was honest to say, I study the math of juries and why they're often wrong, they would not select him, but they did select him. And he had the time of his life, and he won't stop talking about it to this day. He loved it. I don't know why they selected him. I can't believe it.
Yeah, I mean, if you are sitting for an interesting trial, I bet you it is quite an experience.
My cousin was on a murder trial, and in the murder trial. And she said it was fascinating and horrifying.
Yeah.
All right. So the guy gets indicted, right?
He gets indicted.
The lawyers don't want him to be handcuffed. He's going to be brought in. He's going to be fingerprinted. They're going to take a mug shot. Then, they're going to be very careful about the public, right? So they're basically rehearsing what the whole day is going to be like to make sure that he doesn't have access to the public, because that could be dangerous for a lot of different reasons. And, he's traveling with his security. He's got
Secret Service.
Yeah, he's got the Secret Service that apparently they have to be within a certain amount of certain range of him and all that. It's complicated.
Does that mean they'd have to go to jail with him? I was wondering this at 2 a.m. They get their cells out.
He won't necessarily go to jail, though. I mean, until he gets convicted.
Yeah.
If he's convicted.
Yeah.
That's a really good question. Does the Secret Service go to jail with you?
What a terrible.
Do we assume that your Secret Service is just suspended at that point?
It's never happened before, guys.
Yeah.
We are treading in waters that have never ever been trodden before. I mean, the fact that an ex-president is being is being indicted and all of this, it's a big deal. That's why this is such a big deal, because it's never happened before. I mean, Carter Gabe,
That's because other presidents have an iota of shame and reality testing. Like Nixon could have been indicted, but he had the good, the good sense to freaking resign.
Yep.
Then he got pardoned, just so he's all right, let's just get over this and forget about it. Even Bill Clinton made a deal. He cut a deal that basically, I forget what he said, but so so that he wouldn't be indicted after he was no longer the president, he had to do some things. I forget what the deal he cut was.
Yeah, at minimum, he had to, admit the perjury and all these other things. But he had to pay a fine and something else. I was reading about that last night. Yeah,
$5,000, I think it was. Or
wait, did Ford pardon Nixon? Did I get that wrong?
Ford pardoned
It
Nixon.
was Ford. It was Ford. Okay, it wasn't Carter. Okay.
Hey, yeah, but don't forget, didn't the Republican bigwigs go to Nixon and say, "You're done. You're out." Basically said, "That's it, buddy. That's it."
Well, they said they'll impeach him.
Yeah, they went to him and said that. That's something that who knows what would have happened if the GOP actually had the balls.
Clearly they did
that. Well, that form of government no longer exists. I mean, they're rallying behind Trump. It's a tough topic to talk about because it doesn't make sense in pretty much any way you look at it, other than selfishness and greed, right?
Yeah.
The guy has committed crimes his entire life as a businessman. He everybody knows it.
Yeah.
Trump literally says, everybody knows I'm not guilty. It's like, no, all I heard in my entire life about this man was that he was a slimy real estate tycoon.
I was thinking about that recently, Jay, because we grew up in a New York media market, right? So where'd you grow up, Andrea?
Maryland.
So you might have been just outside, and I don't think you were.
Yeah, I was like Western Maryland, so it was.
But you were probably
spotty
in the
media market.
We were in the New York media market. To us, Trump was a local figure.
Yeah.
So we were exposed to all the local news, even if it didn't go national. We still heard about it.
Yeah, I didn't hear
we've
that.
known for decades that Trump is a slimy real estate failed con artist. Like that was who he was to us for that whole time. Didn't he go bankrupt 4 times?
Yeah, many times.
He was a buffoon. He was a New York real estate wannabe buffoon.
Steve, I read somewhere that if this has been passed around, if he took the money, the millions that his dad gave him, and just put it in the market and left it, he'd have more money now than.
He was very good at losing money.
Yeah.
Right. And he was a media manipulator, a media, whatever you call it, Pop and Jay. And he's just a buffoon, Yeah. So when he went national in 2016, I think we all just assumed that people would quickly see him for what he was.
And I waited years.
And of course, a lot of people did, but I think a lot of people who aren't from New York, he was just a different persona to them. They never knew the persona that we grew up with, living in a New York media market.
I mean, I only knew him as someone mentioned that knowing him from Home Alone 2. I didn't know he was in Home Alone 2 until a few months ago when I watched Home Alone 2. I'm like, oh my God. I mean, my friends warned me that he would be there, but I didn't really know him. So I grew up in the 90s, early 2000s. He was kind of on my radar as, just like the name sort of was around, but I didn't know anything about what he was doing. I didn't know anything about New York. And I only knew about him then from The Apprentice and then from when he started going after Obama. And something I didn't know until I was deep scrolling on all the Trump news last night was that he thought about running in 2011. Did you guys know that?
Yep, I knew that.
Yeah, and then he didn't, and then went back to The Apprentice. I thought the 2016, 2015 move was kind of on a whim, but I guess not. But you're right, no one took him seriously.
So
it's amazing that he's where he is.
One of the things in the news cycle that really, really pushes my buttons is this whole idea that this is all a politicized maneuver. Yeah. These investigations on Trump have been going on for several years. I think some of it even started before he was out of the office, like people were gathering information everything. If Trump legitimately committed a crime, it needs to be proven in a court of law. And if our courts of law find him guilty, then he's guilty.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like the politics angle here is literally Trump's deflection. It is the get out of jail free card that he's trying to use.
But to play devil's advocate a little bit, I agree that if he's guilty, if this is the kind of crime that the DA's office in Manhattan would normally prosecute, then they should do it. And if he's guilty, he should be convicted. Sure. But I do think it's legitimate to think differently about indicting and prosecuting an ex-president, because there are massive political consequences to that, and not just for Trump. There's massive political consequences to not prosecuting him also. So it's a lose-lose.
Sure.
When
But
somebody
Steve,
like Trump has total bad faith and does what he does, there is no good option at that point. But we shouldn't pretend like this isn't a bad thing for our country, that we had to indict a former president, or that there's not going to be negative consequences to it, because I think there will be.
Oh, I see Biden being indicted in the future.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
It would be weaponized immediately.
Yeah.
And the other, all the lock her up stuff around Hillary Clinton, it's not like it's previously the other party hasn't tried to bring charges against prior politicians. It's just that this is the first time it's happened.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I'm not, as much as I want Trump as a person to come to justice, there is a massive blow to the United States here. It's a huge black mark on our flag. Like it's not a great thing, but from my seat, Trump has committed such horrible crimes. I mean, he committed the worst crime that you could possibly commit to a country, and that's treason. I mean, he tried to overthrow our government.
Yeah.
And we saw it happen on TV. There is no question that of his involvement at this point. So
I think his guilt in this case has never been the question, really. There's a legal question of is it a felony or a misdemeanor, and that's the new legal bit here. Right. From what I understand, is that just lying on your taxes is a civil offense, but if you do it in the furtherance of something else like campaign finance fraud, then it becomes a felony. And so I don't think this necessarily connection has ever been made before. So it works in theory, but it's a little bit of an untested legal theory.
Well, but there is strength behind this case because they have 32 counts. That means he broke the law 32 times just in this vein.
And there's already been somebody convicted on these exact actions. Cohen has already been convicted.
So, of course, I wish that none of this was happening. I wish that Trump didn't break the law. I wish that, all of these things could be rolled back, but they can't. And I know that it's polarizing the country even more. Mm-hmm. But I think from a judicial perspective, a guilty person should go through what Trump is about to go through. Mm-hmm. He did profoundly guilty things. Yeah. And if we don't show that there are consequences, I think ultimately that's worse than keeping the reputation of ex-US presidents pristine.
I agree, Jay. I think that, what you said about it's a black mark on American history. It would be as Steve said, a much worse one if we let him get away with it. And this feels like the beginning of the first time that we might be able to hold this man accountable, because he's just slid through everything, all these impeachments, all these other things that we thought would ensnare him. And it does, I can see why the other side would argue, and it's the other side because I'm biased and I'll be transparent about my own views, would be arguing that it's a witch hunt and it's this and it's that. But there's something very poetic and I think powerful about the fact that this is the legal system with Americans are on the jury, right? This isn't members of Congress. This isn't special Senate committees or anything like that. This is just Americans deciding. And I think that that's, for the first time, gives me hope in what is left of our institutions.
Well, Andrew, let me throw this on top of what you just said.
All right.
So January 6th happens, and the slow, methodical movement of our judicial system prosecuted those people who incriminated themselves on camera. Mm-hmm. And were recognized by police and all that stuff, and they slowly were prosecuted, right? So now we have a situation where Trump is calling for more violence, and nothing has happened yet. I'm hoping that nothing happens, but I believe that the people that would commit that violence didn't do it because they saw what happened to the people that did January 6th. Like that is like, I don't know, is that 99% of the reason why we have laws is as a deterrent
for future crime?
Well, that's a big reason, sure.
It's a huge
Plus,
reason.
I wonder how much of it is that the people who would do it are already in jail.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Those are like the hardcore people who would be the most likely to, to make it happen. But the other thing to think about, so this is probably the weakest of the four, crimes that Trump is likely to be indicted for.
I wish they didn't lead with it.
I don't know that it matters. It also might make the other ones more likely or happen quicker because now they're not breaking new ground.
Is it roughly chronological what we can expect to be unveiled, or not that simple?
I don't know. I don't know where I think Georgia might be getting close.
Okay.
He definitely tried to flip the subvert the outcome of the Georgia election.
Like, I just need 11,800 votes.
Yeah.
Oh, is that
the
how
documents
democracy
case
works?
is really getting close, and they now have evidence that goes to his state of mind, which is always the hardest piece of the puzzle, and the January 6th. That's the most complicated, but I mean that seems like a home run to me as well.
Well,
from just a is he guilty point of view, from a legal case, I don't know.
Right.
Yeah, but if this doesn't go well, if this indictment doesn't go well, can't it have a chilling effect on the other subsequent potential indictments? That's my fear. If this doesn't go well,
I don't know. I don't think so, because it's a different case. It doesn't mean anything.
I mean, Bob, you have a team of lawyers and researchers and all that have put in tens of thousands of hours of time to amass all of these actions and information and everything. And you think because of some other case failed that they're going to go, shred it, fuck it. That's not going to happen.
Like, Dahmer's innocent too while we're at it. Yeah, whatever.
But maybe they won't get the indictment, from the grand jury the second or third time. I don't know.
It could mess with jurors' psychology, but I don't know how are they finding jurors for the grand jury who aren't informed on these things, right? I mean, aren't there that word I already forgot when they voied you?
Voir dire.
Voir dire you.
Yeah.
Like, how are they finding these people? Because Bob is right. If things get weird, or maybe you hear about people getting intimidated whose identities are revealed if you were on the grand jury or on the petite jury, that could really have some effects down the road too.
The irony here is that Trump is committing crimes while he's being prosecuted for crimes.
Yeah.
He's literally breaking the law as he is emotionally reacting to what's happening to him. It's pathetic. It's literally, this guy is pathetic.
Well, in my opinion, that's one of the primary reasons why I think he absolutely should be indicted, because he is absolutely unrepentant, completely unrepentant. Yeah. He's flaunting his ability to get away with murder, to get away with anything, that he's above the law, that he could summon his thugs, to intimidate politicians, intimidate, the legal system. He's done this his whole life. He's used his money for legal thuggery. He's buddied up to the legal infrastructure in New York. He was really very close to the AG and all that stuff just to skate. And he's used to skating on everything because he's manipulated the system like a mob boss, because that's basically what he is.
Yeah. And
now he really bit himself in the ass by becoming president in a way, because now he's in a world where he's not in New York anymore. He can't necessarily do that, although he still thinks he can, and to some extent he can.
Yeah.
And I think the most important thing to come out of all of this is to show him and the world, no, you can't. You can't do that. There is a rule of law.
Yeah.
There are limits. An unrepentant asshole like him shouldn't be able to do this.
I totally agree, and sorry, Bob. I will defer to you, my older brother.
Oh, thanks, Jay. My point is that if he gets away with this and doesn't pay for anything that he did, to me, it's like, well, then nobody ever will ever. Because how are we ever going to get something that's dramatically enough worse than Trump? And could we even survive that? How could, if he doesn't pay, then it's like no one ever will.
You're asking the entire country to cheat on their taxes at that point, as far as I'm concerned.
If he's found innocent, I'm just gonna not pay my taxes or just lie. Yeah, maybe I shouldn't say this on the internet, but well,
so
gonna get audited.
Yeah, not on air. Not on air.
Yeah,
the House.
Ian, take it out. Take it out.
It's too late.
Okay,
It's forever. It's forever. So the House is like putting committees together to investigate Biden and Biden's family and all this. And part of me is like, my God, you're wasting time. Like there's shit going on in our country and the world that you need to be addressing. Don't do it. And another part of me is like, go for it.
Yeah.
Go for it. Because if they're guilty, I will be the first person in line trying to kick them in the ass, because if anybody broke the law, screw them. But if they're not guilty, which I don't think Biden's family is guilty. I can't say empirically. I just, from everything I've read, I don't see anything there. I mean, I defy anyone to actually explain to me what Hunter's laptop is. What is the significance of that freaking laptop?
I've tried to answer that question. Like, is there anything there? Like, what is this all about?
I don't know.
And as best as I could tell, it's a giant nothing burger. Is from what I can. I don't care either way. I just want to know what the answer is, so I know how to put all of this news into context.
I mean, it's like Benghazi, isn't it? Where they tried Hillary. Oh, like she went through an insane amount of
the Hunter Biden thing is definitely a witch hunt. I think there's no question.
Yeah.
What they're looking for, the thing is, the laptop is in the hands of the Department of Justice, who have been going over it for 2 years.
Yeah.
And the question is there evidence in there, some communication or email or something that ties to Joe Biden, the president? Did he sell access to his father to foreign interests? And there is no evidence of that in the laptop. At the very worst, there's evidence that Hunter used his name to advance his own career. And that was wrong. He should not have done that. And he may come to some legal harm for that. Although if he does, then freaking Trump's children should absolutely. What's his name? Jared Kushner, leaves the White House and cuts a $2 billion investment deal with the Saudis. I mean, and they're going after Hunter's laptop. There's no even equivalency there. But there's nothing to tie it to Joe Biden. But the Republicans, that's what they're looking for. They're looking for something to tie it to Joe Biden. They can't find it because it doesn't appear to be there.
Right. So that's why I say, go ahead and look. Go ahead. Like if you want, if the wheels of justice need to turn in that direction, so you people can realize that there's nothing there. And again, if they did find something, I wouldn't be against it. I don't give a shit about. I got to say this again. It's like a mantra for me at this point. I don't care about any politician. I don't give a shit what party they belong to, what state they're from, what they did in the past. There is a bar that we need to hold our politicians to. And if any one of them dips below that bar, I don't care who. If you're my mom and you're in the Senate and you dip below that bar, then you got to be held. You got to be accountable.
There has to be a floor of common decency, of honesty, of following the rule of law. There has to be a floor.
Yeah.
To me, that's always been the scariest and most disappointing thing about the Trump era, the last 6 years, is that he demonstrated that, at least for parts of the American political system, there's no floor. There is absolutely no bottom. And that's very disconcerting to an average citizen to realize that, wow, it's like that. When that senator got up and said, "At long last, sir, have you no decency?" It's like the same thing. It's like, is there no shame?
Yeah.
Is there nothing at all that gives us a floor to how low they will go?
Nope.
And the answer is apparently no.
I mean,
that's scary.
When you have congressmen saying on video, like Ted Cruz, talking openly about how much he despises Trump, how much he thinks the guy is like a danger to the party and all that. And then you fast forward and he's literally, a poster child for Trump.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's constantly, regularly.
So what happened? It's so freaking. You are a pane of glass, Ted Cruz. You're a pane of glass. You are so transparent.
By all accounts, by everything that I've read and everyone I've spoken to, other than the true believers, like Marjorie Taylor Greene, those conspiracy theorists, they all think he's a moron. They all hate him. Like behind the scenes, they know it. He is a fucking
Is it
moron.
all blackmail? What does he have on these people? I'm
They're
worried that
afraid
they're
of
going to
his
get to the
voters.
jurors.
They're afraid of that 30% of voters. Nobody could win without that.
That's it. I mean, look at
That's
what
it. They're afraid of their own voters.
Look at what the Fox newscasters were saying about Trump, in 2020. Did you see those emails that the Dominion case is bringing out? They were like, this guy he's crazy.
Toxic. Yeah,
the truth,
everyone's too afraid. No,
the truth
some
comes out. Like
accountability.
Tucker Carlson said it. He said it. We know that he hates Trump. Trump knows that he hates him. Everybody knows that he hates him, and it doesn't matter. The guy literally, he cuts a deal with Kevin McCarthy, gets the video footage from January 6th, and puts together, a super incredibly light take on everything that happened. Said they're just sightseeing. This is a guy that we know a year ago was MFing Trump behind his back to Fox News.
Yeah.
And the truth doesn't freaking matter. It doesn't matter at all. We are literally living inside Midjourney. It's a fucking illusion.
Yeah.
It doesn't matter
with the succession
anymore.
People at the top as the people populating the Midjourney that we're in.
So the fact that there are powerful people out there who work in various places in justice in the Justice Department, in New York State Justice, in Georgia Justice, that are willing to do the right thing, the actual right thing, is follow through with these horrendous crimes that we have evidence that were committed. I feel lucky that we still have people that are willing to take death threats to put a guilty man in prison.
That's right.
These are stand-up people that are doing this. And, and if I'm wrong, and if the evidence isn't there, I'll accept it. I'm a skeptic. I'm trained to accept information, valid information as it comes, even if it bruises my precious ego.
Right. And we're pretty, in all honesty, obviously we have our opinions, but for a long time, we're pretty nonpartisan. It's like we don't really identify with any major political party. There are positions that we have, and they pretty much span the political spectrum, issue by issue. And in the aggregate, we're pretty centrist, but it's not like we are team whatever. We've never really been that, you know what I mean? For a long time. When we're kids, that's different, but it's been a long time since there's been a political party that hits it on all cylinders in terms of aligning with our belief systems.
Steve, I put it to every person listening to this. If you, I don't want to talk about outside of the United States because my understanding dramatically drops off a cliff. So I just want to talk about what I know. But if you belong to a political party, and if you have any feeling in you that you have, some type of relationship with that party, or you need to be loyal to that party, I put it to you to question that and how damaging those types of feelings are. We should not care about political parties and politicians and who they are. And we should care about the quality of the work that they do. And this is non-existent in this country.
Yeah.
It's gone. Like the fact that people are backing Trump with all of the information that's out there, it blows my hair back. I'm like, you got to be kidding me! Like that's the guy you pick. That guy, he doesn't even have charisma. He doesn't even have the thing to attach. Every human would understand if there's charisma there, then you can go, oh well, I get it. He's charismatic. He's not even charismatic. He's anti-charismatic.
Oh,
it just
to answer something somebody put in the chat. I'm not saying we don't have political bias. We have ideological bias. We just don't have partisan bias. We're not on team Democrat, team Republican, team Libertarian, or whatever you want to call it. That doesn't mean we're not biased. We have our absolutely. What's interesting is, and this is
said, Steve, thinking about the way the Republicans are right now.
Well, I have to say, I'm saying I'm anti-Republican because the Republicans have completely radicalized themselves.
Oh my God.
And they're anti-science and they're anti.
Right, but that's because they're anti-science, they're anti-rule of law, they're anti-reason, they have no shame.
Yeah, let's make that clear.
It wouldn't matter which party did that; we would be against that party. But that's different than identifying as a party where that's your guys, that's your tribe, that's your team.
But you're in a healthy position, I think,
has a negative influence on your political thinking.
The only healthy, sane position as a consumer of politics, right? I read about it. I'm not involved in politics in any way. I'm just a subject to it, and I read about it. Is if you allow any politician, if you care about them in any way, then you're giving them, get out of jail free cards at that point.
Yeah.
Like we need, if
you become like a super fan, like a Taylor Swift fan.
Yeah. Like you can't, we can't treat them like celebrities.
Right.
They work for us. We have to look at them as people that need to jump over, that need to jump through hoops.
That's right. They're people we're employing, basically. Right. No, it's,
right.
A lot of people in the chat are talking about policies, and that's how we used to, or at least, how political science used to think about how humans think about politics, which is I say, I have my policy idea, and here's the policy preference of my elected leader. Is there someone running against that leader who's closer to mine? Well, then I'm going to vote for that person. And it's all policy based. And of course, yes, we have our biases about what information we consume, about what policies we prefer, where I land on different things. But we're just not tethering ourselves to policies. When was the last time that the news was like policy forward, right? All we hear about, at least that makes its way to my ecosystem and echo chambers, is just this person said this wild thing, this person said that egregious thing, and it's just soap operas. It's not.
Yeah, I agree. The media is bad.
I want our government.
The horse race. It is all that stuff. It's all the divisive stuff. It's not enough focus on just policy for policy's sake. Yeah, I
mean, they see that with the guns, right? We just scream at each other as opposed to say, well, what could help? What has helped? How can we move? Anyway, we don't have to go down that road.
No, but it's an important thing to talk about, though, Andrea. I mean, seriously, like we have, a profoundly broken thing in the United States, like the gun situation in the United States. The entire world sees it like it's the most obvious thing, like what needs to be done, and we can't get over the hump. And I read, I don't know how true this is, but I read that the people who want guns to be as easily accessible as they are in the minority. It's not even that most Americans want this. It's just a vocal minority that is keeping 9-year-olds in danger when they go to school.
Yeah, that's the big problem, is when we have a basically minority rule, not only in many ways party minority rule, but issue minority rule. Most people want sensible gun safety laws, and yet we cannot enact them. We don't have the political will to do what most people want our politicians to do.
And elected officials, at least in national government, are more extreme to both sides, in fact, but certainly noticeably and vocally to the right than voters. So we're just not even represented, really.
Yeah. I know, Andrea, you've spoken before, and we've talked about this, about the fact that a lot of this comes from the primary system, because the people who get nominated appeal to the extremes.
Right.
Because the extremes vote, they come out for the primaries.
Right.
And then for the general election, our choice is between two extremists,
Right. Yeah. And you're like, well, I don't want either one, but I'm not going to vote for that one. Right.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah. Or I will, because there's no way I'm voting for this party, even if they're closer to my policy views, if I'm even thinking about policy views, which I'm probably not.
Right.
Yeah.
Skepticism has taught me some amazing things. And this idea that I don't attach myself to politicians, right? It's a very freeing position to be in. Because I'm just judgmental on all of them, and it's a better place to be, because I think it makes you a better consumer of what they do and the things that they say. You're kind of immune at that point.
Yeah. I will confess, I was when Obama was elected in 2008, I was a huge Obama fan. I was one of those, and it meant that for his first several years in office, I just thought everything he touched was gold. Then I moved to China and stopped paying attention to U.S. politics pretty much because I couldn't get the news. Well, that's a different story. And so I actually have very little knowledge of Obama's presidency. And I know he's done a number of things that were very, very, very bad. But it did not hit my radar because I was fawning over him. And he's so cool and he plays basketball. And so I fell into that. I am 100% guilty of that. And Jay, I wish I had thought about it differently. And I should educate myself.
Andrea, look,
he's
president,
still cool, though, we can admit.
Presidents make thousands of decisions.
Yeah.
They're going to make mistakes. I get that. But I do think, though, it's important that we from a historical perspective, can look at them and acknowledge that they were mistakes. If it's something that needs to have an immediate counteraction, that's what the other party's for.
In theory.
That's what, but you know what I mean? But that is the way that our government was set up. Like, there's checks and balances through and through.
Mm-hmm.
So I think, as consumers, this is the healthy position.
Mm-hmm.
And it's probably good not to really idolize, anybody, you know what I mean? Idolize your parents for doing a good job if they did, and people that and stuff like that. People in the media, famous people, what the hell?
I wandered into this bizarre bookstore today because I'm avoiding all responsibilities. And I found this old book. It was like 30 years old, younger than I am, but it was called The Stars. And I thought it was going to be about space. And so I picked it up thinking it was a book about, cool. But it was about celebrities and movie stars. And it was this discussion of why do Americans, and I would be curious if it works elsewhere. I imagine that it does. Why are Americans so obsessed with movie stars? And the movie star model has changed since that time. And it's more fractured and we have different celebrities. But just the general idea of like, why do we pick non-religious, religion is its own question, religious figures out there in the world and worship them and form communities around our shared fandom and align ourselves with them and say they can do no wrong and really bow down. And I didn't buy the book, but I was like, I never questioned why we have celebrities, right? And you can tell stories about role models and someone to look up to, but it does give people carte blanche to do all kinds of wild stuff.
I think, Andrea, I think that this is happening in the US partly because people are just flat out bored because they're not living lives that have substance.
Yes.
I'm so busy doing so many other things. I could give a crap about famous people.
Yeah.
Again, entertain me. If I need to consume a movie, I want to be entertained. I usually am disappointed when I find out who they are behind the scenes.
I almost never want to know.
Because they're just people.
Or the interviews with them and you're like, never mind. Yeah.
And celebrities are mostly assholes. I mean, because you think about it, and it's not necessarily even their fault. When the more famous you become, the more you are surrounded by people and people who tell you, it's got to be horrible for your psyche, for your narcissism, and for your intersocial skills. It's got to be horrible for that. I don't know how you could not come out effed up at the end of that process. And by all accounts, that's the way most celebrities are.
Yeah.
Some are cool, and they're the exception.
Keanu Reeves.
Yeah, he's hanging in there. Well, there was something circulating recently that was just like with social media, it just ruins the movie star or the super celebrity veneer because they can just say whatever they want as opposed to say stuff in tiny sound bites through very, very filtered PR based things. And so we much more quickly see that most of them are nothing special. Yeah,
right. They have acting skills. They have a skill. They have a certain particular set of skills, right?
Yeah.
And it's, we can admire, I admire really good acting skills.
Absolutely.
But that's it. There's so many other skill sets that I value more than that. And the fact that the thing is, we partly fall for the illusion, because they can pretend really well to be profound, wise, charismatic, powerful people. We, at some lizard brain level, think that they are those people. Even if we intellectually know they're not, we emotionally react to that charisma in that way. But otherwise, it's like, they have this one artistic skill set. And they could be complete idiots otherwise. And a lot of them are. They believe in pseudoscience, it's just all kinds of horrible things are rampant because it has nothing to do with this school. Yeah, Scientology, all that stuff. Again, just like sports stars, I can admire their skill at playing football or whatever their sport is, but they don't necessarily have to have anything else.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. Going for them. And in fact, the fact that they're functioning at the top 0.0001% of human beings in this one area probably means that they've neglected every other part of their life.
Opportunity costs being what they are.
Yeah.
No, someone in the chat just mentioned the Gwyneth trial, and I just want to confess to all of you that when I saw Trump was indicted, it was so overwhelming to me that I was like, I don't even know how to think about this, that I read all about the Gwyneth trial first to warm up. And then I went back to the Trump news, so I actually know a lot. But that's another, ridiculous celebrity culture thing that we could talk about. But
Yeah, I mean, in the end, I think that people should be educating themselves and reading good books. And look, movies are inspirational and they're wonderful things to consume, and you can learn a lot from watching movies. But focus on enriching yourself, and you'll find that you really won't care about on a personal level. You won't care about any of these people. I care about the people in my life that I interact with, people that I do business with, my children, my wife, my immediate family. Like those are really the superstars of the movie of my life. Those are the people that I'm putting my energy into. Like I like Arnold Schwarzenegger because he's done some cool movies that I thought were great when I was a kid, but I don't know that guy. I don't know him at all. If I heard he was an asshole tomorrow, I wouldn't even flinch. I'd be like, yeah, okay, makes sense.
Right. I think
he's another
you do get over it, I think, progressively as you. And I deliberately try to train myself like not to have a celebrity reaction to people and to see them as just regular people.
Yeah, but it is awesome when there's an actor you love and you see them making a personal plea or some video. And Arnie has done that in the past 4 or 5 years. I know he's got some sketchy shit going on in the past that I'm not too familiar with, but I know it's out there. But he has said some things that it makes him, makes me happy that because I agree with a lot of the stuff that he's said. So it's fun. It's nice when that happens. But Jay, tell me the one person though that you would erupt in fanboy giggles if they just entered your life briefly.
Ian brought them on the live stream right now.
Be like, come on.
I mean, I don't really know if that person exists. I mean,
oh, come on, it's got to be Arnie. I know you'd be a puddle of goo if Arnie came up to you and like.
I would love to talk to him if I could get a real conversation. I would love to have a real conversation with him, but I don't know. I mean, I'd like to talk to my dad again. That would turn me into a puddle of goo if I could have a half an hour with my father. I don't know. I mean, I mean, sure, Bob. There's some people, I'd like to meet like people that made The Nightmare Before Christmas and were involved with that project. I'd like to meet George Lucas. That'd be fun. I have a ton of questions for him.
Mark Hamill, you'd lose your shit.
Yeah, I mean, Mark Hamill, because I'll admit, I know a lot about him, that the kind of person that he is, because I'm such a fan of Star Wars that, he is, from everything I've read, he's a really good person and everything. And I listened to him give a talk at a conference I was at in person, and I loved it. I was totally into it.
Somebody in the chat, by massive coincidence, put Bernie. I'm assuming they mean Bernie Sanders.
Yeah.
You going to go there, Steve?
Well, I'm just going to put it out there. I met him 3 days ago. I was in a room
Bernie
with
Sanders?
him. Yeah.
Wow.
I was in a congressional roundtable on healthcare with Bernie Sanders.
Tell us more.
Awesome. I talk about it briefly on the show, and I can't really talk about it more.
Look,
and there was zero. I'm just saying this. I had zero celebrity reaction to him, even though it's like that's Bernie Sanders. It was totally 100% him. It was just there was none of that celebrity reaction in me.
Mm-hmm.
Was he what you expected? Was he similar?
He was exactly who you think he is. He was,
cool.
100%.
That's kind of the best you can ask for, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
But I agree. So we go to Dragon Con a lot. I'm looking forward to going again this year. And there's always the celebrity walk of fame and the celebrities walking around. And it is kind of fun to see the actors who play characters that you really care about. But oftentimes people say, oh, let's go up and talk to this guy. And I'm always thinking, like, what am I going to talk to him about?
Yeah.
I have nothing I want to say to that person.
Right.
And whenever I have spoken to actors at Dragon Con, it's always disappointing.
Except with one exception, Steve.
One exception, and maybe two, Jay, unless yours is different than mine. What's the exception?
Well, when Steve and me and Courtney went up and talked to the guy that plays Gimli, what's his name?
Yeah, but that was fun. But the guy was still was fun, and it was bizarre. But he was still giving us a total line of bullshit.
Yeah. Yeah, we weren't fanboying him. It just happened. We just happened to have this spontaneous conversation with him that was interesting.
Yeah.
Somebody said Jay would melt in the presence of William Shatner. Hell yeah, would I like to meet William Shatner. But I also know that he's a strange dude. And there's things about him I don't like. Sure,
Yeah.
I'd like to talk to the guy that was
John
Captain
Rhys Davies,
freaking
yeah.
Kirk. That'd be fun. But
Yeah.
but I don't idol worship him. I mean,
All
Jeff Buckley, Bob. That's my answer. There's one person that I would
Jeff
want to meet,
Buckley.
and that's Jeff Buckley.
I don't know who
But
that
here's
is.
the thing. I always think when I'm like
Hallelujah.
at Dragon Con, it's like, I don't want to talk to that guy. I want to talk to the writer. I
Yeah.
want to talk to the person who
Ah.
wrote the show that I care about, right? Not the actor who just carried out the
Yeah.
I mean, I would
character.
talk to George R.R. Martin way before I talked to Kit Harington.
Yeah,
Kit
Harington
definitely.
seems
Yeah.
cool.
That said, one of my favorite interviews of all the interviews we have done, James Marsters played Spike on Buffy. When we interviewed him, and I realized
He was fun.
that he
Yeah.
was a science enthusiast, which was clear, and he's claimed to listen to the show. I don't know, maybe yes, maybe no, but I was giggling like a little kid. I will never forget that interview, and I want to do it again because I got even better questions for him now.
All right.
That was
Rusty Swiker was the best interview we ever had.
Yes.
That was
he was up there. He was up there. Top
He
five.
was so. You know who Rusty Swiker is, Andrea?
Don't. Oh.
NASA
Apollo
astronaut.
Oh.
And he
Okay.
described what it was like
Wow.
taking off in a rocket to us in a visceral way. It was really, really interesting.
Yeah,
and
that's
Okay.
cool.
and he had charisma and gravitas.
Ooh.
When he spoke, you were just
And
like,
real
holy
stories to
shit, like
tell.
it sucked you in. I got to tell you this. If you don't know the story, I need to tell you. I'm sure people have heard this before. I'll tell it very quickly. But he says, okay, so the Saturn V rocket ignites and it takes off. And he said it pushed him back into his seat on a profound level. And they buckled them in so tight, like you can't believe it. Like they're literally putting their foot down on their shoulder and yanking down these buckles to get them in as tight as they can. And when that engine turned off,
Well, no, you're missing a piece.
Go
You're
ahead.
missing a piece.
go ahead.
They were strapped in really tight, so he loosened it to be a little bit more comfortable. So now his harness is a little bit loose, and so when the rocket is going at full blast, you don't realize this, but it compresses the whole rocket,
Yes.
Yes.
right? Because it's a force. It's
A
it's
noticeable amount.
5-6 Gs or whatever. And then when they shut the engine off like that, it bounces back like a spring. So now he's in his chair, he gets bounced forward, and he said his head came within 1 inch of the console.
Oh.
And he would have splattered his brains over the console if that harness was a little bit looser. And he said, got to tell the boys at NASA about that one.
Yeah.
'Cause,
Wow.
and everyone who comes after me needs to know, keep those fucking harnesses tight.
Yes.
Yeah.
Because you will die if you don't do that.
Wow.
And you just don't think of things like that. I never thought of that. Oh yeah, it would be
No.
a giant spring
Right.
that would just boing, would uncoil when they.
Yeah, and that happened at while he was literally in outer space going what 30. How fast did they go? I mean, they go so. You think about the circumstance that he was in.
Yeah, but it's the
Yeah.
G-forces more than
Yeah.
the speed per se. But yeah. And
Yeah,
because this is the first time anyone was really going through this. I mean, this is before. This was like, I forget. It was sometime before Apollo 11 when he went up, and he also did a spacewalk, right, on that mission.
I think so.
He never went to the moon, but that was his role in Apollo. But he so that like every time was an experiment, and it was a learning experience, and they had to like accumulate this knowledge about what happens, and that was a close one. He's like, his face came right up to the console.
Wow.
Amazing. But like, who are you going to hear stuff like that from?
Right.
Other
That's
than
amazing.
a
Yeah.
freaking Apollo astronaut. That's who I like talking to.
Yeah, I want to meet astronauts. That's
Yeah.
what I
Yeah.
want.
Hey, the new astronauts, the Artemis 2 astronauts are being unveiled, I believe, on Monday or Tuesday. That's going to be cool. So I
very
really hope that people are paying attention to these moon missions. It's a remarkable time to be an outer space fan.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and they're swinging around the moon and coming back. They're not going to land, right?
Yeah, but
And
we're a
Apollo
year
3
and a half
lands.
away from people going to the moon.
Yeah.
It's coming quick, man.
When do they want citizen volunteers? Because I'm
Would you
free.
go, Andrea? Could you? Do
I would
it?
go.
Could you
in
do
a
it?
second. No hesitation. Yeah.
I'm
You
proud of
wouldn't?
for that. I can't.
think
I have
they
anxiety.
were
so I
taking them,
can't.
Andrea. You
I
could
couldn't do it.
apply. You could
Yeah?
apply.
All right.
I wish
felt like
I
a
wish I had the nerve, Andrea,
essay?
but I don't.
Really?
I have
Oh.
panic disorder, so I can't. You can't put me in a little spacecraft and send me up into outer space. I
Okay.
lose my mind.
I was going to suggest NyQuil for the takeoff, but don't. Based on what Steve just said about the console,
NyQuil for the whole
you don't want to
thing.
be more limp.
Oh, I would let them buckle me in till I started to bleed. You know, like
Like, you're going to lose an arm. It's so tight. You're like, that's fine. I'm fine with
yeah,
that.
we're good. We're cool.
Wow.
Yeah, I don't know. You know, small confined space, being far.
You can't get motion sick.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because
The thing-
Rusty told that if you puke in your helmet, you die. You puke, you
Okay.
die.
Okay.
That's it.
Yeah.
There's no two ways about it.
The biggest
they-
hesitation I've had on space travel is there was some, I don't know if it was like a NASA post on Instagram or something a couple weeks ago that was like, here's a day in the life of our astronauts or whoever is in space. And they said one of the things we do on the weekends is we have to clean the food spatter off all the walls because since there's no gravity, the food that we're eating and this and that just kind of floats around and we have to scrape it off the walls. And I have a huge phobia of like food bits. And so I actually really second guessed my willingness to go to space based on like not like blowing up with the rocket launch, but the like
Andrea,
little
I hate
lasagna
to
bits
tell
on
you
the
this.
wall.
It gets a lot worse than that.
Oh yeah.
The
Oh.
spacecraft smell like shit. Like legit.
Really?
Yeah, because
I
you know,
believe you.
they're barely bathing, and you know,
You're right.
people have to eat, people have to go to the bathroom, and that stuff gets everywhere. And the space, if you breathed in a breath of air that's in the space station right now, it could potentially make you vomit. That's how.
Which will then kill you. Yeah.
But you get used to it, I'm sure, after.
Sure.
What about solo
while.
missions? Do they need solo missions?
Yeah.
I'll listen to the backlog of the SGU and just float around Earth. Sounds like a great plan.
Just don't shower the week before you go. You'll be used to the smell.
Yeah, yeah. That's a really rough thing to think about.
Yeah. But I mean, you know, the views that they get, you know what I find really cool is that most astronauts have that emotional thing that happens where they see the Earth and they in a very similar way. I've read many astronauts describe this feeling of oneness, like they understand that we are floating on a dust speck, you know, in a sunbeam. You know what I mean? It's true. We live so close to each other, you know, like the whole idea that, you know, we think, oh, people so far away and all this stuff, like we share a planet.
Yeah.
And there is a profound understanding that people that can see the Earth from an outside perspective get, and I can only imagine what that feels like.
I wish we could get it from a photo. Like I look at photos of Earth from space all the time, and it just
doesn't do it.
No,
doesn't do it. Andrew, the first time I saw the Grand Canyon in person, it made me realize how completely inadequate every picture I've ever seen of the Grand Canyon was.
Yeah.
It does not give you the emotional effect at all. When you're looking at a picture, it's a picture. When you're there and you get the full 3D effect, it's a completely different experience. It literally is a different neurological experience. But I will say this though, VR gives you the reality of
it.
When you see it in VR, you totally get the same. As long as it fills, I think, a certain amount of your visual space, your brain clicks over, says it's real. You know, it makes it feel like it's real and not that you're looking at a picture. And then you start to react, you know, emotionally. Jake can tell you this. You know, all of the emotional aspects of what you're looking at get triggered.
Okay.
Maybe
we all need that for space.
Andrea, there's a lot of lizard brain connections when you're in VR. I mean, it's fooling your senses, and of course the technology is getting better all the time. But like I did this one called the plank. You know, you walk the plank. You go up in an elevator to about 30 floors up, and then the elevator doors open, and there's a plank literally going out the side of the building.
Wow!
And I couldn't walk the plank.
That was hilarious because I was there, right? I was there, and he
like you're in the living room.
He rips the headset off. It's like nope.
I noped out.
Nope. But he did do it. He did do it after that. But before Jay did it, I think before you, I did it, and I was able to do it, but it was visceral. It's like, damn.
It's visceral. Yeah.
What happens when you step off? Do you feel falling?
No, well, sick. You do fall. Your character,
you fall in the
your
game,
avatar
but you don't
falls.
Feel it. Yeah.
You don't really feel it, but you do.
Okay.
It's taking that step though. That's the
whole.
I wouldn't say that you feel nothing. You do feel something when you fall, for sure, because your
But-
brain, your brain is fighting against the input that it's getting, right? You're getting visual cues, but you're not getting momentum cues. You know what I mean? You're not getting that feeling. So there is a little bit of that going on, but it is amazing. I mean,
stomach doesn't leap into your throat. Like
no, it doesn't.
Yeah. Right.
But if you buy one of the new VR headsets today and you put that thing on, like the experience is epic.
I mean, that's the future, right? We are gonna all just be in VR headsets all the time, right?
I mean, it's hard to say that, but I think it definitely it's going.
Will be big. We'll be big.
VR and AR.
I think we're one good game away from the world changing.
Yeah,
I really believe that. I think that if some company
so
puts
long.
out an incredibly good VR experience,
what the hell is taking so long? I mean, I think we're still waiting though for the real, the real sweet spot for the image in terms of like filling enough of your peripheral vision.
And, they're still at 110. I just looked like last week.
Widen it even just a little.
It's still
bit.
good. It's still good.
Not sweet spot.
Yeah, wait. Even 120, 130 in terms of like the angle of view would be, I think, a lot better. But I guess it would just right now they're just trying to make the headset a little bit lighter. So they're keeping it at 110. They're upping the resolution, and they're just trying to make the whole thing less cumbersome because there is some fatigue from wearing that huge thing on your head.
Yeah.
This is my dream. This is my tech dream. Here is my VR AR glasses. Bam.
Yeah.
Like to my phone. When it's like this, or even maybe bulkier a little bit, that's when it's going to be just
bring back Google Glass. Here we go.
Yeah.
Andrea, have you not done VR?
I've only done it once. It was at some place nearby that used to offer VR like at night, where you like go to a bar with your friends and then you could like basically like an arcade for VR. And I only did it once, and it was like 4.5-5 years ago. But it was scary. I mean, it was some kind of like zombie fight, and I had to rip the thing off because I was getting overpowered by zombies. Or Bob was there. I don't know which it was, but it was terrifying.
One of the best VR games I played, I think it was called Arizona Sunshine. At some point in the game, you are crawling through a mine. It's completely pitch black. You have a flashlight and a pistol, and there are zombies coming at you out of the darkness.
Yeah.
And that's a visceral experience. Absolutely.
I'd love to
check that out. A lot of fun.
Yeah, somebody asked if I've played Half-Life, Alex, and I haven't because I
played through it twice. It's awesome. Best VR game I've played so far.
Well, I want to get a new VR headset before I play it because mine is pretty damn old.
Really good.
Yeah, I want a new one.
We don't have to say you don't have to say this if you've already covered this elsewhere on the show, Steve. But what is it about VR that taps into our system neurologically so differently? Is it because it's so immersive?
Yeah, I think it just tricks your brain into thinking that it's real.
Okay.
Like if you're looking at a picture of a drop, there's no emotional connection. But when you're in VR, your brain is screaming, "Danger, danger! You're about to die." And so it crosses over.
Even
that
though
line.
you know that it's not real.
It doesn't matter.
You're on a carpet. You're not on a plank at 10 stories up. You know it, but it doesn't matter. It just grabs you, and it's there.
Survivor instinct or whatever.
Yeah. There's a threshold, I think, of visual immersiveness that triggers it. Whereas otherwise it doesn't. You're looking at a picture.
Right. Could you do it with sound only? Like close your eyes and someone describes something? Or is it something special about vision in humans?
No, I think it's something special about vision.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Vision. Your visual system has pathways that connect to the amygdala. And you're right. So I think that vision has a unique ability to trigger certain reactions, which makes sense. We are very visual animals. Primates are very, very visual, more so even than other mammals. Other mammals are more olfactory, like dogs. Their world, they have an olfactory world, that we don't have. Our world is visual. It's very, very visual.
There's no VR that's like smell based, where you're like, I smell like I'm walking the plank. It doesn't work.
It's called scratch and sniff.
They have incorporated smells and even like other tactile reactions like wind and stuff. They've done that in primitive VR systems. They've done it, and
multi-sensory does take it up a notch.
Yep,
like when you do the plank experience, you do it for a friend of yours. Don't tell them ahead of time. you break out a fan and blow it in their face when they go outside.
Yeah.
Remember that it was the that first it was the Universal ride. I think it was Spider-Man that really tried to make it was like it was kind of like a VR ride, where you're not just seeing pictures and props as you go by. It was trying to create a three-dimensional experience, combining practical props, a wraparound screen, and adding tactile sensation. So there's one part of the ride where one of the villains like jumps on your car, and the car reacts to him doing that. And he holds like a blowtorch, and you get a blast of hot air from the blowtorch that he's holding.
Feel it,
When you combine visual and any tactile sensation, your brain's like, that's 100% real.
Yeah.
That's how
your
brain
brain knows
house
right there, right?
Oh yeah.
Like touch the eyeballs.
Yeah.
Bob, I'm insulting your haunted house knowledge.
It's getting late, actually. Should we take a couple questions?
Well, before we do that, Steve.
Yeah.
So I don't know if everyone here has heard yet about the conference that we're trying to plan. Now, Andrea, you know about this because we talked. So November 3rd and November 4th, we are trying to organize a conference that's called Not a Con. And it is a conference that is not really a conference because there are no speakers. This conference revolves around socializing. So George Robb, Brian Wecht, Andrea, and the entire SGU will be there. And we will be definitely having events happen and things happening and entertaining things happen. But the conference itself is about spending time with each other, hanging out, having plenty of time for meals, having plenty of time to socialize. It's what lots of people have been asking for. So if you're interested, I would really appreciate you going to our homepage, go to theskepticsguide.org, and you'll see in the middle of the page that there's a button that you can click, and you could let us know if you're interested in doing this. I need to get to 150 people, or else we're not going to do it because, if we don't have the interest, then I'm not going to commit the time and dollars to do it. And it's super expensive. Like, I literally just talked to the hotel today, and they said that they're going to give me 2 more weeks. So I'm not even going to be able to go to the end of April. Like, we got to land this thing in 2 weeks. In 2 weeks, I have to either put a deposit in or release the hold on the rooms.
It's open to anybody if you can get yourself there.
Yeah.
Close
Anybody can go. It's going to be a patron heavy event though. I'm pretty sure it's going to be like, a big meetup for everyone because everyone's dying to do it. But we're going to have a lot of fun. We are, we're talking about the things that we're going to do. I really like, some of the ideas that we're coming up with right now, but we have a lot of work to do to get us to the finish line. So let us know because we want to do this.
I had a dream last night, 100% true. I had a dream last night. I was hanging out in a big backyard with you all. And we were having Kara was there, George was there, everyone was there. And we were having a really great time. And I woke up and said, I had a nice dream. And then Jay, you texted me about today. And so I now think that it's all coming together. Not a con is the cherry on top of my vision board.
And Andrea, you named it.
Did I? No, I think you named it.
No, you named it.
That's a great name.
No, you named it.
Oh.
You named this conference.
I think I was just enthusiastic about the name.
I think that you were both the creator and enthusiastic about the name.
I think it's a great name. I'll stand by Not a Con until.
So again, somebody asked in the chat. So I'll say the White Plains location that we're doing is convenient for multiple modes of travel. Amtrak goes through there, so if you want to train in, it's very easy. It's very easy to drive from the tri-state area, and it has a local airport as well as being close to New York City.
Yeah.
There's the Westchester Airport is very convenient to it. So yeah, you don't need a car if you're coming in by train or by plane. Yeah.
Yeah, I don't have a car and I go to White Plains and it's fine.
Yeah.
No, that's a great location.
Yeah.
Does anybody have any questions?
Yes, let's go. Okay, so what do you call a few meatballs in bread? In Connecticut, is it a grinder, hoagie, sub, sandwich, or po' boy?
It's a grinder.
Yeah.
Grinder.
Or sub. Meatball sub. We absolutely say
fine.
Meatball sub or grinder.
Sub.
The grinder's more common in our region, I guess, right? So that's all regional, right?
Yeah.
What you call it.
Yeah, we
Grinder's
didn't have
more regional,
in Maryland,
but sub is acceptable. Yeah.
So there's a
Hoagie.
website. There's a website that you can go to. I wish I remembered what it was, but you could probably find it, where it can tell you where you live by the way that what words you use to describe certain things.
It was on the New York
And that's one
Times
of them.
maybe 10 years ago.
Yeah.
It's so good.
Yeah.
It's so did you all do it? Was it
Yes,
accurate?
and it was dead. It was dead accurate.
Yeah, same.
So for me, it pegged me as being from Yonkers, which is halfway between where my parents grew up.
Wow.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
My father's from
love it.
Danbury, mother's from Brooklyn. Yonkers is pretty much in between, and that's where I thought my accent was from. My whatever my word use.
How cool is that?
Yeah. No, my boyfriend's mother lives in Columbus, Ohio, and she grew up in Allentown, Pennsylvania, and she took the survey, and she was exactly halfway between the two. She spent her entire adult life in Columbus, but that area of Pennsylvania has a very strong set of words, and so it just spot on. It's one of the best.
You say soda? You say pop? Do you say soda pop?
Yes. Soda all the way. You all say soda, right?
Soda,
yeah, soda.
Yeah, pop is cray-cray. What do you call the middle? If you have like a piece of land in between the lanes of a road, what do you call that?
Median?
Yeah, the median.
Yeah.
Median. What do you say?
No, that's it. But they call it other things.
Yeah. Well, I didn't know the word
a mean or a mode.
frontage road until I went to Connecticut for college, and there were all these roads called frontage road. And I don't know that was in the quiz, but I think that's a Connecticut thing.
Yeah.
Like a road parallel to a highway or something.
Yeah, I think so. There's a frontage in New Haven.
Yeah.
That runs. Yeah, I mean it runs between two highways. I don't know if that's what it is.
What do you call an intersection where you go around in a circle rather than
roundabout?
Roundabout, yeah.
Rotary?
Yeah.
You say rotary, Bob?
No.
It's more of a Boston thing, I think.
Boston.
It's more,
circle or roundabout?
Roundabout.
Circle.
Yeah.
Definitely.
Yeah.
All right, one more question.
All right.
Maybe two.
What this leads into, because I made something. What kind of mittens was Bernie wearing? And I got a picture from that event. There's Steve.
Yes!
Nice.
That's Steve.
A
from
plus,
the
Ian.
event.
That's so
Bernie
good.
Sanders.
Steve, did you show up with those mittens on just for and never comment on them?
Never did.
Where's Bernie from? Where does that accent come from?
Well, he's
Vermont.
Vermont.
Right?
From Vermont, yeah.
Is that a Vermont accent
wait.
though? That's what I mean.
No,
Yeah.
isn't he from Brooklyn?
I don't know. Yeah.
He's got I think he's more.
Bernie, where's Bernie?
Top 1%. He's from Brooklyn. He was born in Brooklyn.
Yeah.
I bet his
Definitely
quiz
there's
would
Brooklyn
show.
in his accent.
Yeah,
Top
Brooklyn and
1%.
Vermont.
Getting your hat, Jay?
Someone asked what the word is on the SGU trucker hat. It's just our logo. It's one of our logos. We have several. See that?
I gotta get a hat.
Yeah, I kind of lost steam, coming up with a new batch of these because the cost is so freaking bad. The cost after the pandemic is so bad because I got to get the patches made. Then I have to pay to get them hand sewn onto the hats. And these blanks, like this trucker blank, is a very expensive blank because it's a really good quality. I picked the best one I could find, and of course they're expensive.
Yeah. I have another friend who does a lot of merch stuff, and he's struggling similarly. Just like super expensive, not the same kind of quality, all kinds of issues.
Yeah, I mean the pandemic, man, it totaled, getting things on the cheap.
Mm-hmm.
It just doesn't exist anymore. I mean, I went to the supermarket. I swear to God, I walked out with half a bag of groceries. It was $80.
Wow.
I mean, I'm like, what just happened? Like, how do people afford to live in this part of the country? I'm barely doing it.
I don't know.
It sucks.
Yeah.
All right, next one.
I want to know what Steve thinks about ABA therapy for autism, applied behavior analysis therapy for autism. I've heard more negative than positive things. My 2-year-old daughter's developmental pediatrician suggests we start her on it, but I'm unsure.
I can't talk before I do a deep dive on it and get it updated on.
Yeah.
I haven't looked at the research, recently enough to talk off the top of my head. But
So
I'll
wait
put it
for
on
our
my list.
TikTok.
And
on
then send
that,
it an
potentially.
email, and then I'll answer it on the show.
Oh yeah, send an email to info@theskepticsguide.org. If I designed a bunker for post-apocalyptic short story I'm writing, what kind of sciencey things would you like to see in it?
In the bunker?
You mean just
Yeah,
the technology of the bunker itself, or Is that what
Yeah,
they-
I guess it seems. Yeah,
Or did
or just in
technology-
general, like items. Yeah, let's say tech.
Well,
Well,
you definitely want to have a 3D
also-
printer down there.
Solar cells for
Mm.
sure.
Yep.
3D printer would be great.
I mean, you need a water purification system. You'd need a way to. You need refrigeration.
A hydroponic growing system.
How
I
about
was gonna say growing some kind of nutrient dense
geothermal?
something.
Geothermal and dehydrated water.
I mean,
Dehydrated
just
water.
dealing with septic. You know,
Right.
I don't know. Like, I don't know how deep a septic system could go. Could you build a really deep septic?
Yeah.
Could you? I don't
Sure.
know.
Probably depends on where you are.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah, that's
And
a big
lots of
conversation.
guns.
I'd have to really think about that. I'm sure
That's a good
people have
question.
already done that though.
Yeah.
All right, you want to take another one and then we'll go eat dinner?
Sounds good. Got 1
How
minute.
did Jay's Nauticon hotel visit go?
Oh, I did.
We didn't do the.
No, I'm gonna go up. So you know what'll happen? I'll go after we get to 150. Then I'll I'm not gonna go first.
Let
I'm
me
gonna.
post the
I already
link
I
again.
looked at extensively at pictures and everything. But if we commit to this thing, I'll go and I'll do my grand tour, and I will make more decisions.
Here's the link again if you want. It's in the chat. It's a direct link. Otherwise, you can go to the homepage if you're listening to this after, and there's a button there. And also go to our TikTok because we're posting a bunch of stuff. Please.
Yeah, congrats on your TikTok. I've been watching them. Great stuff.
Steve is going ape
Oh,
shit
there you
on
go.
TikTok.
Mhm.
Yeah, that's
We
the
keep
spirit.
Trying them to go.
We-
have
How
them
do
go
you, are
viral.
you liking it? Are you liking doing it?
Yeah, it's fun.
Yeah, it is
Right.
fun.
It's hard finding stuff that's in the sweet spot because so much of it is so crazy.
Yeah.
It's like we can't just do another totally off the wall conspiracy theorist. They're
Right.
just at some point it's like gets
Yeah,
a little dodgy. But
One of the
there's-
problems is there's like a lot of facts that are getting thrown out, and Steve's like, I'd have to talk about those 20 different things they brought up to cover this. Like, we want
Yeah.
something
Yeah.
that's a little more of like a one note,
Right.
so he can dig
Yeah.
his really do a good job.
Yeah, I
on,
need
like,
something meaty, but it's got to be one thing.
Right.
Because if I can't do a Gish Gallop in a TikTok video,
Right.
or so yeah, it can't be too complicated. There's got to be some meat to it, but it's got to be able to do like a quick hit.
Mhm.
There's got to be some narrative I could wrap up in 3 minutes or whatever.
Mhm.
So it is a pretty hard sweet spot to hit, but there's plenty of raw material there. So we haven't had a problem finding.
Ian and I
Yeah.
keep trying to get Steve to do ones that he doesn't want to do. We're like, Steve, come on, you got to do this, man. You got to. No, I can't. I can't do that because and then he gives like a really well detailed list of reasons. We're like, it doesn't matter. You got to do it. You got to do it.
Can you do like
AI is
20
getting good enough. We'll
videos
just fake it.
Yeah.
in response to one where you're like, here's one thing that's wrong with this, it's this. Here's another thing that's wrong with this, it's this, and just do that? Or is that too
Yeah.
Yeah, usually
It's usually better to just let Steve riff.
Yeah,
Well,
sometimes but
Yeah.
there have been a few where they do this Gish Gallop of nonsense, and I just pick out one or two
Yeah.
things and say I'm just going to focus on this point, and then I say why that's nonsense. But you can't, because it's so much easier to create a misinformation than to correct it. You can't correct everything.
Like with the
Something
CERN one,
is-
we had to do a couple videos.
Yeah,
If
and
it
then
was
sometimes I'll do
the-
a follow up. Like you let people respond, and then like if there's a common theme to the response, I might say, okay, people have been saying X. Let me address X, and I just do one video about X. Whatever that is.
Well, Andrew, the problem is like we want to show the original video a little bit.
right.
But we can't like have that video go on for like a couple of minutes to load the gun, so
Right.
know what Steve's talking about. So part of it is we show about like, what is it, Ian? Like 8 seconds, I think, is about the maximum that we can show.
15:30 sometimes. Well, no, we cut it a little bit differently. We don't use the stitch feature right now, but like, yeah, we a 15 to 30 seconds maybe at most.
Yeah, so we're trying to find
But
like
it's
a
like,
video where someone is basically making their premise in those 15 seconds.
Right. No, I wondered about that too. That seems tricky. And then if you run it, you're spotlighting them and letting that, if people don't keep watching, then that message goes. So it's like they have to make the point, but they can't make it that compellingly before you swoop in, right?
But what we do is we show Steve sitting there, because Steve's in the foreground and the video's running in the background. So we see
I'm doing this.
Steve sitting there going,
yes, that has helpful.
holy Jesus.
Yeah, that's right.
There was one video,
Oh
Andrew,
my
where all
days.
Steve did was go like this.
That was the
all
whole
Not
he
even.
did.
I think he just raised his eyebrow.
And people
Not
loved
even. He
it.
didn't even.
So good.
People loved it. It was ridiculous.
so
Like,
good.
what?
Are the comments pretty like constructive and good, or
It's a
are
mix.
you getting
It's like
crazies?
it's clearly skeptics
Good?
on one side, and then there's the true believers on the other side, just saying more stupid shit. You know?
Right, right.
It's
I love
good.
that people know the meme of the guy. It's all coming out now.
It's
Even
all
in
coming
the
out
chat,
now. That
there's
guy's
this one
awesome.
guy who just has bangers. He's like so
He's funny as
conspiracy
shit.
theory.
He's a
but
total
has such
pseudoscientist,
good
but he's actually funny.
Really? Okay.
Yeah.
He's
Right,
very
I'm afraid
dramatic.
of comments, but I gotta go read your comments in that case.
Andrew, you should come and do some TikToks with us.
I would
Oh,
love
yeah.
to.
Yeah.
I'm there. I would
That's
absolutely
awesome.
love to.
That'd be a lot of fun.
That'd be
We
super
want
fun.
we want Bob to do them because Bob actually gets
Yeah.
angry. Bob
Yeah.
flares a little and he'll get a little pissed off, which is
Yeah,
Bob
great.
rants.
I gotta find a good video. I'll do it. Post
Okay.
show.
All right, guys, I had a great time talking to you all. Thank
Yeah,
you,
it was great
Andrea,
hanging
so
out.
much.
Weekend.
Bye, everyone on the chat.
Bye, Andrea.
Be good,
Yeah.
everybody. Thank you.
Bye,
Ian.
everyone. Thanks, Ian. Thanks,
Bye.
Andrea. Thanks,
Bye
everyone.
bye. See you guys
Out in
later.
internet land.
Okay.
Bye. So long, you
Internet
freak.
land.
Get
Follow us
out
on
of here,
TikTok.
you.
Okay,
What
bye.
are you doing?
Skeptic's Guide to the Universe is produced by SGU Productions, dedicated to promoting science and critical thinking. For more information, visit us at theskepticsguide.org. Send your questions to info@theskepticsguide.org. And if you would like to support the show and all the work that we do, go to patreon.com/skepticsguide and consider becoming a patron and becoming part of the SGU community. Our listeners and supporters are what make SGU possible.
Nobody stuck around again, so I'll see you guys all later. Somebody just posted a quote unquote photo of me in the Discord, and if you want to join the Discord, go to patreon.com/skepticsguide and do that. Also, everybody, if you find something weird in the world, not just on TikTok but anywhere else, that somebody says on a podcast that is seemingly not skeptical, send us a link, and we'll try to incorporate that into some React content for TikTok and the such. Okay, so please do that. Ian holding his melons. I'm not doing that. Okay. That's it. Goodbye. Anything else? Anybody? Better round them up. Also, the green screen thing, it's TikTok does an auto background removal. He's on green screen. When I actually do the chroma key removal, it's clean. But because TikTok doesn't have a green screen chroma key removal, that it does a background thing, and it's stupid, and I'm sorry about that. Okay, that's it. Goodbye. I know Evan will be back after the 15th, probably. The tax season is going crazy. Is there no background? Is this just like the graphic is just black? There we go. Okay, that's it. I don't know the Melon Man. I ignored nothing, Silac. Bye bye.